Most MSP deals don't die for the reasons that you think they do. Things like timing, contract, price. They actually die because the person selling them never actually asks for the sale. I know this sounds asinine. If you give me a few minutes, I'm going to prove how this is a problem, why this is a problem. And I'm going to show you a very simple fix to avoid getting ghosted, to identify what the real objections are, and give you the best opportunity to get an actual decision in the room with the person that you're sitting down with. Let's dive in. I was recently listening to a call from somebody who I'd actually followed this whole process. So I had heard the discovery call and he was now going in, he gave the presentation, he walked through the slide deck. Like, it was done pretty well. Like, it was presented well. The slide deck followed the formula that we say that you should follow. And he gets to the end. He shows the plan, like says, this is the recommendation, gives them a second to think about it. And then he follows up with, so what I'm going to do is give you some time to think about that. And I'll leave this with you and we'll follow up next week. And I thought, man, now this isn't uncommon. Because we run sales audits. So I'm telling you, I see this all the time. Sales processes that end without actually asking the decision maker for the sale, showing them a quote that you need to then send to them and let them review. It's walking through a proposal and then saying, I'm sure you want to think about this, so let me go ahead and send this and let you think about it. The number of times that I actually see someone in the presentation, right, at the proposal, ask for the sale and try to get an actual decision is actually very low. It's very, very much in the minority of times. And this is how we'll look it overs. We need to think about it. We'll follow up next week. This is good. Let me just, kick it around a little bit. This is how all of the deals end up in that state, right? Like some sales purgatory where you never actually get to hear the decision, never get to work through the objections, anything like that. If you never actually ask the decision maker for the sale, if you never ask for a decision, then what you never get is the opportunity to hear what the objections are. And if you don't hear what the objections are, then you never have the opportunity to resolve those objections, and you can't close a deal unless you've resolved the objections. So if somebody has some uncertainty, they have some questions, they have some concerns, they have whatever it is, these are all obstacles and objections and things that are in the way of you getting a closed deal. If a buyer, if a prospect has those things and they're left unresolved, you do not get a sale. As a salesperson, you want to know what those things are. How do you ask for the sale? Like, it's not monumental. In fact, if you've run like a good discovery process and you work through the proposal and the presentation, by the time you get to the point that you want to ask for a decision, it's really anticlimactic, right? So asking can be as simple as you working through your piece. Here's what I recommend. The investment level is this. You pause for just a second. Is there any reason not to move forward today? Once you've done that, like once you've laid out all of the information, right? Because at this point, you should have addressed their problems and their pain points. You should have addressed the gap between current, future state, like all the stuff that goes into like sales fundamentals and consultative sales. When you've worked through your presentation, you've delivered all of your information. Now, what you need to do is start extracting information, right? Like, you need to understand, where do you sit? Now that I've given this presentation and I've shown how we can solve your problems, and I've shown how we can help you achieve your goals, and I've shown how we're the better service provider, and I've done all these things, and I've given you the price, I've given you the plan, I've given you there's no more information for me to deliver. When you ask, you now go into closing mode. It is time to close the deal. And that simple ask, something as simple as, is there any reason not to move forward today? What you're doing is it's respectful, it's polite, it's not cheesy, it's not salesy. Is that not the question that you want to know, right? And so that is the opportunity. That's the impact point. One of my old sales managers used to call it like the impact point, right? Like, that is it. And if the answer is no, meaning yes, like, is there any reason not to move forward? They say, well, no, not really. Fantastic. Excellent, right? Like, let's move forward. Like, let's keep this process rolling. If they say, yeah, I'm not ready yet, right? Or I'm not, whatever it is. Also, fantastic, because now you're having a conversation about all of the roadblocks that are in between you and this closed deal, right? Those are the real objections. Those are the real questions. Those are the things that you need to resolve, that you need to answer, that you need to address. in order for them to feel comfortable moving forward with you. So by asking that question, you give them the opportunity to express that. You force some clarity into this process. Now, the next thing that happens, if they say, not really ready, right? I need to think about it. Yes, there are some reasons that we're not ready to move forward today. Then one of the first follow-up questions I'm going to ask is, what would you say is holding you back? You're maintaining not high pressure. You're maintaining not combative. You're not like, oh hell, like it's like you're just, okay, well, what would you say is holding you back, right? And you are consultatively selling now, all right? So then you get into that conversation, and ideally, they just tell you, right? Ideally, they express whatever those objections are. They say, well, you know what, we have another bid and it's X amount, or our current provider is Y amount, or, hey, it doesn't include ABC, or hey, it's overkill on this. Like, so they tell you whatever that is. The more common scenario is you get some smoke screens. They don't necessarily tell you exactly what it is. And that's when you, as a salesperson, needs to start thinking strategically about, how can I hone in on what's really the issue here? Because I need to address that, right? So if you get smoke screens, well, no, I just need to think about it. I need to run it past somebody. You go, okay. And you've done everything, that you need to do, sales fundamentals 101. Then the question that I like to ask as a follow-up, it's like, no, we still need to think about it, or I need to talk to so-and-so before we can move forward. Hey, I totally understand. Switching providers is a big decision. If I may ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being you wouldn't do business with us in a million years, and 10 being we're an actual perfect fit and you're looking for the contract right now, where would you say you are in this decision right now? What I'm trying to do is create a contrast in extremes, and I'm trying to say, please put a number on where you stand in this process right now. And the thing that I love about this, first of all, if there are other decision makers, well, what I'm wondering is what you think, right? Like, what is your perspective? And where do you stand on this today? But the real meat of this, the reason it works is because when I can get a number, right? And that number is typically, it's going to be 6, 7, or 8, right? Like something like that, unless you've completely missed the mark or can't read body language, something like that. So it's typically going to be something in there. Then the follow-up question to this is, what would make this a 10, right? Dozen different ways that you can ask that question. And here you get to have the conversations about budgets. You get to have the conversations about timing, about real urgency, about risk, about fear of calling their service provider today, and how awkward and uncomfortable that's going to be, or whatever it is. That's the conversation that you want to have with them while you're in the room. And this is the pattern that I see with the best closers, right? The best people at selling MSP services. It's because they are the best at getting decisions. Yes or no, they're just better at getting decisions. And they do that by understanding what are the objections and what are the things that are below the surface. Because the best closers understand, I need to know what those things are. So they don't avoid them, right? Like the vast majority of people, when they go through the selling process, are trying to avoid the discomfort or the friction or the tension that's associated with some mild disagreement, some sense of reservation, or the questions that they have. Right? Like they try to avoid the pricing discussion until the very, very end. And the best closers aren't afraid of it. They lean into it. They want to know what they are. They want to get all of those things out because they want to have the conversation about whatever they are right here, right? Because I know as a closer, the odds of me addressing that issue, question, objection, whatever it is, are way higher if I can work with you through that process, if I can answer those questions directly, if I can respond to those objections directly. I will have a substantially better likelihood of clearing those things out of the way if we talk about it while I'm here. If I leave and leave you with all of those reservations, well, then I just kind of hope that my presentation, that I've already given, by the way, that my presentation does the work for me, right? And I hope that in their own process, they come to the conclusion of a yes, right? Whereas I, as a closer, as a salesperson, I see most of my job fundamentally is getting people to make decisions. And in order to do that, I need to know their decision-making process. And I need to not be afraid of the objections. And I need to ask for the sale. I need to ask for a decision while we're sitting in the room in order to have the opportunity to surface those things. Because as you notice, working through those are all in the follow-up questions, right? It's all after you've asked for the sale. You don't get to do that if you don't initially ask for the sale. Humans naturally avoid discomfort, makes sense, but sales requires some degree of tension. There's a little bit of friction, right? Like in the decision-making process, or getting people to make a decision to change something that they're currently doing, or convincing them to think differently or challenging them to think differently. All of those things fall within your wheelhouse, fall within your responsibility as a consultative seller. And to do that, I've got to ask for the decision initially. If you've done this and you've still got to, not yet, right? Like you've still got to have some follow-ups to this, which will be the case in sales, then that's okay too. What you want to make sure that you do is don't leave that meeting empty-handed, right? That's the last thing that you want to do. And what I'm going to do in the next video here above is I'm going to show you how to never leave this meeting empty-handed and how that changes your close rates and your conversion substantially. So feel free to check that one out, or here, or wherever the hell it is. And I'll see you in the next video. In the meantime, if you want to dive into our library of resources, we have the MSP Sales Toolbox. It is a place where we have playbooks, we have templates, we have scripting, we have forecasting stuff, all sorts of sales stuff that we create for our clients or with our clients. And we drop a lot of these things in here, and we add new resources every month. So feel free to get access to that. It's free, doesn't cost you anything. You'll have lifetime access to it. And that's at MSP Sales Toolbox. And I'll see you in the next video. Adios.